This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag. Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag is Baton Rouge's longest running and best television show. Who would have believed that?
My best friend, Lee Feinswag, look at the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. Remember, it all starts at Breck. Now, your host, Lee Feinswag.
Well, it's Sports Writer Travelogue night. Hello, I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225, and Scott Rabalais is here. Scott, of course, is a columnist for The Advocate who covers LSU, does some Saints stuff, and because of that, he went to England to cover the Saints. And we had talked long before he went. He may not remember this because in the hustle and bustle this week, but I said, all right, when you get back from England, I want you here so we can talk about the trip.
I do remember, yes.
Yeah. So, and that was your first time to Europe, right?
It was, yeah, first time.
Thoughts?
Oh, it was great. I can't wait to go back.
Yeah.
It was great. London has always been one of those cities where I wanted to go, and like to do all the British Isles, really, you know. But that's probably going to have to wait till retirement.
Yeah, right.
But we spent a week there. We left on Monday. I met Nick Underhill and Joel Erickson, our Saints beat writers in Charlotte. They covered the game on Sunday when the Saints beat the Panthers there, and we all flew over there and got there Tuesday morning. We came back Monday the 2nd. So,
what was Wembley Stadium like?
Wembley is really nice. It's very, I thought, very American-like. Very, it's a rebuilt stadium. It's kind of like there's a Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. You know, they tore it down and rebuilt a new stadium on that site.
Right.
It's similar to that. They tore down the old stadium with these two towers. You know, that was very famous on the outside. It was built back in the 20s, I think, and they tore that down about 10 years ago and built the current stadium. It's about 84,000. It's massive. And you know one thing that struck me? Obviously, there was a big thing about the national anthem. You know, the Saints all decided to kneel and then all stand together for the anthem. A few of the Dolphins players knelt, and now there's a thing. The Dolphins owner is like, I don't want you to kneel anymore. So there was all that, and Darius Rucker sang the national anthem. He was there singing the national anthem, so that was cool. And then they brought this young lady to sing God Save the Queen, and everyone sang. It's the first time I'd ever heard it in person. And it was very moving. I mean, 84,000 people singing. Everyone who was English was singing "God Save the Queen," and that surprised me. That is like, wow, that was pretty powerful.
How'd the British fans react to the game itself? It's not like this was the first NFL game there. I mean, they've been going for a while. And,
yeah.
And of course,
10 years.
They had the We Laugh World League of American Football.
Yeah.
That was 1 million years ago.
Yeah.
But there's been games there. Do they sing soccer chants? Do they get into the American football? I assume all the expats show up, but there's got to be a lot of Brits.
A lot. They had Saturday. They had this party on Regent Street, which is this shopping district in central London. So they had blocked it off from Oxford Circus to Piccadilly Circus, about half a mile.
Yeah.
And they had this party and a stage, and the coaches and a few players came out. Drew Brees took an Instagram of him with a crowd behind him, and put that up. And there were lots of people, more British fans than I expected. You expect to see Saints fans come and Dolphins fans, and there were those. But there were fans wearing Seahawks jerseys and Patriots jerseys and Jets jerseys and all these different teams. A lot of people have allegiances to these teams over there, and that was I didn't know what to expect. That surprised me a little more. And at the game, it was the same thing. There were people pulling for the Saints and the Dolphins, and it was the Dolphins' home game technically. Yeah. But there were a lot of people who were just football fans. They can buy. There were 4 games, NFL games this year. This was the second one. There's 2 more. Jacksonville was there with Leonard Fournette the week before, and you can buy a season ticket to those 4 games. So I was talking to a guy who does that, and he's a huge fan, and a lot of those people are hoping, I think, that a team comes there permanently, which I think is a possibility.
From New York to London, it's not that much farther of a flight than New York to Los Angeles, for example. However, it's still a haul, and there is the element of jet lag and the overnight and all that kind of stuff.
And I think the Dolphins were a bit of a disadvantage. They've been traveling so much because of Hurricane Irma. They had to practice out west. They played out west. They went home. They went to New York. They came back, and they came on Friday. Had a little walkthrough. The Saints were there all week, and I think it definitely helped the Saints to acclimate. The whole week. But it's going to be a logistical challenge if you had a team there. I think you'd have to have an NFL team come here and play like 3 games in a row and have some kind of base of operations in the United States near a major airport like Dallas or Atlanta or Kansas City, something.
Couldn't do the back and forth thing.
No.
Because every time a team goes there, you're talking about at least 3 extra nights of hotel rooms, for
Mm-hmm.
example, for the team and all that. We are going to talk about LSU football with Scott Rabalais, but I want to talk more about the travelogue. So did you get to do any other fun stuff outside of Wembley Stadium, the football team, and your hotel?
Yeah, yes and no. I didn't get to do a lot of the traditional tourist thing. I did go to Abbey Road, which was not far from our hotel. We walked there, and so we went to the crosswalk, and I did a little video thing from there, and that was cool. And then I went to the Science Museum. The great thing about London is you can geek out to just about anything you want there.
Yeah.
And my thing was to see they have the Apollo 10 space capsule there.
Really?
So I want to see all the Apollo space capsules, and I've seen about half of them. But I've got this was the toughest one I get to see is because it's in London.
Scott Rabalais, space geek.
Yeah,
Who knew?
I drank Tang when I was a little kid. I wanted to be an astronaut. And so, but mostly I walked past things. I walked past Big Ben. I walked past Westminster Abbey. I saw the tower. But I did do some neat things in terms of writing. I went. English food is famously bad. So there's all these international. It's a very international city. So there's all these international cuisines. So I said, well, Cajun's got to be in the mix there somewhere. So I found these 2 Cajun restaurants, and that was great. One is called Plaquemine Lock.
Really?
Well, the guy's name is Jacob Kennedy. He's a Londoner, but he has family ties here. His mother, one of his grandmothers rather, was born in Plaquemine. Her name was Virginia Campbell. She was an actress on stage and in movies. She passed away last year, I believe, like 102. Anyway, and then there was another guy named Tom Brown who had a pop-up restaurant that moves around called Decatur. And so tried the boudin balls and the gumbo at Plaquemine Lock, and tried the char-grilled oysters at Decatur, and it was pretty good. It was all pretty good.
That's good to hear. One of my rules when I travel is I never eat anything that says blackened, Cajun spiced.
No, me too. Generally speaking, but I had to see.
Did you get a note in, about this as well?
Oh, I wrote a whole column,
okay.
about it. And then I wrote a column about the public toilets. You have to pay to use some of the public toilets. And then,
a topic not normally broached.
They've turned. Yeah, this is like okay.
That's
y'all
okay.
really? It's okay if I do
good.
this.
I like this.
And so, and some of them have been turned into bars. There's these public toilets that have been turned into bars and restaurants. And the best one was the Shard is this 95-story skyscraper they built on the south bank of the Thames. And there's a restaurant called Aquashard, and you go into the men's room, and there's these floor-to-ceiling windows behind the urinal. So it solves the age-old problem that men have when you go to the urinal. Where do you look, right? where do you gaze? Well, you can gaze out. There's the Thames. Oh, there's Big Ben.
Do you happen to have that picture?
I downloaded so many pictures. It's with my column. If people go to my column section.
I'll try to find it and put it up. And with that, you can read about all those things at theadvocate.com.
And the one other thing, I went to Southampton because their soccer team, their Premier League team, is the Saints, and they chant when the Saints go marching in. And it's very similar. It's a seaport city, similar to New Orleans. Seaport city.
You took the train down there?
Took the train. It's about like Baton Rouge to New Orleans, about an hour, a little over an hour. And rode around the city. The bus driver was very friendly. He was a big Saints fan, and they were on the road. They weren't there, but it was interesting. It's kind of a smaller market city, like New Orleans, in the NFL, trying to make it. All
right, I got to stop you because we have no time left.
No, that's great. But that was the last. That was
good. We have more. We got to talk about Y.A. Tittle when we get back, and then we'll talk some LSU football. He's Scott Rabalais. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
Hi, I'm Joe Martin, president of ITI Technical College, and we are so excited to have been awarded Forbes magazine's top 30 two-year technical colleges in America. To achieve this award, ITI was recognized for our high scores in 1, earnings of our graduates, 2, quality of education, and 3, affordability. To learn more, we invite you to visit our campus or go online. ITI Technical College. Begin your journey to a better life.
We're back on Sports 225. LSU's got a big home game this week coming up against Auburn. Y.A. Tittle passed away, one of my boyhood heroes, actually, long before I ever even knew he went to LSU. Scott Rabalais is here. He's a sports writer for The Advocate. He covers LSU, occasionally some Saints, a lot of SEC, the big picture. But we're still talking travelogue. So before we get to the other stuff, I've been lucky enough over in Europe, but never in England, to have seen some soccer games. I've seen Barcelona play at home. I've seen one of the teams in Lisbon play at home. I've seen the second team in Munich, München 1860, because the big guys were gone. Bayern München was out of town. They shared the stadium. Yeah, it's cool. But so you got to see at least one, as they say, a football game.
Yeah, you know, London is a huge city. It's like almost 9 million people.
Big.
Greater London.
Big.
And they have like 24 professional soccer teams of different levels. You have the Premier League. There's like 5 Premier League teams. There'd be like 5 NFL teams.
Oh yeah, you got
being in one city.
Right there. I mean,
Arsenal, Chelsea,
yeah.
Tottenham Hotspur, West Ham, and
listen to you.
There's one more, Crystal Palace.
Listen to my boy.
Yeah, and so only 2 of those were.
And you know all this too. We give a little credit to your brother, who was a huge soccer.
Oh,
fan.
my brother Jeff. Yeah, played soccer for years, youth soccer, and and I refereed a little bit back in the day.
I remember that.
Back when I was like a senior in high school, first year of college. But anyway, so couldn't get tickets to one of those. But Friday night we went to see Queens Park Rangers and Fulham, which is at the English Champions League.
They've been relegated.
Yeah, they're relegated. One level below. It's like AAA baseball. And Queens Park's stadium is called Loftus Road. I love the names of the stadiums. Like Stamford Bridge is where Chelsea plays and stuff. Yeah. And so there's 2 London teams, and it's like kind of like a high school game. It's 18,000 seats, so you sit really close to the field. I mean, we were really close to the action. Never been so cramped though in my life. You sat, but there was no leg room whatsoever, and you're just jammed in there.
Terrible. That's
you're not going anywhere.
I've been to those other stadiums, but the ones I mentioned, they're all modern. All right, so change gears from one football to the next. When I was a young boy following the New York Football Giants, Y.A. Tittle was the first quarterback I remember.
Was he really?
Yeah, and he was a great player. And then later, when I did Tales from the LSU Sidelines and went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame to do research, there were 3 former LSU football players in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Y.A. Tittle, Steve Van Buren, and Jimmy Taylor. And then I got the opportunity to meet Y.A. Tittle at LSU. He was an annual, mostly annual visitor. And he always wore his yellow NFL Hall of Fame or Pro Football Hall of Fame jacket. Did you ever get to meet him?
I met him in 2010 when he came. Just talked to him before the game. He was up in the press box. He was talking about the Ice Bowl, the 1947 Cotton Bowl between LSU and Arkansas. Yeah. So it was the coldest game of his life, which it was a scoreless tie. That it was just ice, sleet, rain, frozen rain. It was like, considering he played 17 years in the NFL, it's like that was the coldest game you played.
Yeah, and I think this is right. He was from Texas.
Marshall, Texas.
Yeah, and then came to LSU. And
was stolen by LSU.
Really?
He wanted real quick. His older brother Jack played at Tulane. He came to LSU, saw him play against LSU. He's like, oh, I like that. I want to come here. But he was pressured to go to Texas, so he went to the University of Texas, and an LSU assistant, Red Swanson, went and liberated him from the Texas campus and brought him back to LSU. The
NCAA rule book was different then.
Yeah,
actually, there probably was no NCAA.
There were some shenanigans back then, and of course he played LSU for 3 years.
That's great.
They went on to.
Now you suggested in a column earlier this week that LSU needs to recognize him and probably do more. Him
and Van Buren and Taylor in some way. You have that facade on the east side of the stadium where you have Billy Cannon's name at one end and Tommy Casanova's at the other. Of course, Cannon, Heisman winner. Casanova, the only 3-time football All-American in LSU history. Great choices. I think Glenn Dorsey probably needs to be up there eventually because he won all those awards. Whoever. Tittle's college career was not quite that compared to those guys. He's never going to go in the College Football Hall of Fame because he wasn't an All-American. You have to be an All-American to make the College Football Hall of Fame. It wasn't Jerry Stovall or some of these other guys. But nonetheless, you have 3 guys in Canton, and he's one of them.
Yeah.
And had longevity, threw for over 30,000 yards in his career when passing wasn't what it is now. There should be some way to honor those guys at the stadium. And they're talking about building this thing in the South Stadium Plaza, outside the south end of the stadium, to recognize LSU's bowl victories and some of their history. Maybe that would be a nice thing. I'm just playing to see. Whatever they decide to do would be fine.
Something would be good. No,
something would be nice.
I agree. And when I went to have you been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Akron?
Yes.
When I went there like 15 years ago, I guess it was. But there was an exhibit about Billy Cannon. He's not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but there's an exhibit about him.
He played most of his career in the AFL.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what it was.
Well, I went to Morton Anderson's induction this summer.
This summer, yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah. All right, he's Scott Rabalais. I'm Lee Feinswag. When we get back, we'll talk about LSU football.
Don't let the bed bugs bite you. We'll put them to sleep.
Bed bugs can be transported from most anywhere. Hotels, department stores, even a friend's house.
We've got the bead on bed bugs. Call the bug man today.
Call 923-BUGS.
We're back on Sports 225. Scott Rabalais is here. You can read his stuff at theadvocate.com. You can follow him on Twitter at
Rabalais ADV. It's a little
well, you know,
involved.
It's all right. And he writes columns, little feature story now and then. You probably miss writing those good long feature stories because you just don't have time to do them anymore.
And Ross Dellinger sucks them all up. He just does them all. You can't stop. He's like Stephen King. He's like, God, he'd come out with another book. He just came out with one last week. Yeah, that's
Charles
Ross.
Dickens.
Yeah, I mean,
right,
Charles, Ross is, he's great. He does a great job covering LSU. He is the best. He is literally the best college beat writer in the country.
He's the version of him would be Jerry Tipton covering Kentucky up in Lexington. If you ever want to read, that side of it, which is just it's all in there.
You can't hardly beat him. And in this age where you and I came up, you just found the story, you crafted it for the next day's paper.
Yeah.
You could do. Now it's like tweet it, put it online, then flesh it out for print if you can. So.
Oh no, and with volleyballmag.com, our volleyball magazine, online, it's just. As soon as we write a story, the first thing we have to do is, all right, did we hit all the social media outlets? Did we tell all the people? Did we tag this person? Did we do that person? Did we go to the right chat rooms and let people know, all right, what's next? Mm-hmm. And it's like, and that's just volleyball. Yeah. Somebody posted in one of the LSU football things that I read and am part of on one of the social medias, and he is adamant, we did not win this game because Florida missed the extra point. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You won the game because Florida missed the extra point. I maintain that. Do you agree?
Well, certainly it was a big factor in the game. Yeah, I mean, if it had been
sets
tied,
up a little bit different situation.
It had been tied. Who knows if LSU could have scored? It might have gone to overtime. Then who knows? They might have won in overtime. But yeah, I mean,
overtime would have been fun to watch.
It would have been. Yeah, it would have been. It adds a whole different. It's just a crapshoot at that point. But they did enough to win. They still didn't play super great, but they ran the offense that Nat Canada was brought in here to run finally after some meddling from the head coach, quite honestly. And where have we heard that before? And then the defense.
By the way, I saw there was a note actually in today's paper or earlier in the week that Les Miles was going to be at LSU on Saturday.
It's the 10th anniversary of the national championship team he coached, and he will be on the field. That's going to be interesting to see how he's received.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be received quite well.
Because he's not the coach anymore? Or?
Well, just, remember, fans, of course, are fickle, but if there are wounds with somebody, they seem to heal if they recognize.
I'm reminded of in 1988, it was the 30th anniversary of the '58 championship team, and they invited Billy Cannon to come with the team and be recognized on the field at a game, and everybody's wondering because this is after his arrest and he was sent to prison for counterfeiting. And it was the first time he'd come back to Tiger Stadium, and everyone wondered how will he be received. He got a standing ovation. I imagine it will be a similar thing for Les.
Oh, I would think. Hey, for whatever reason and for however he managed to do it, his career will go down as one of the top 10 careers.
He may wind up in the College Football Hall of Fame.
No doubt. I mean, he will go down as one of the top 10 coaching careers in college football history. You go back and look it up. And does he get on the Mount Rushmore? No. But is he right up there for and lucky, hiring the right people, circumstances? The only team with 2 losses, to win. Right? I'm not wrong, am I?
I don't know if he's a top 10 coach, but he could be.
I'm not saying he's a top 10 coach, but the time in which he coached compares in the top 10 of any.
Yes.
And for that reason, then I guess he's a top 10.
In his era, he was right up there. Won 77% of his games at LSU.
This is the first time you've been on the show this year, if you will. We start our years by like the school year, and our notes it's like the 2017-2018 Sports 225 year, and which I might tell you was 23 years from the old Sports Monday, on which you were on back in the first year. Were you the first guest or the second guest?
I think
or something?
so. It's going to be a long time ago.
23 years. Think about that, sir. But anyway, I don't know that I ever asked you. What did you predict the LSU football team to finish this year for a regular season record?
I said 10-2. They got to win out.
That'll be difficult. Okay, we have hardly any time left, but we got to take this break. When we get back, Scott and I'll wrap up more about LSU football. Scott Rabalais, international traveler and soccer fan. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
See that dog lover? About to unleash the terror hound on these friendly, unsuspecting canines? Well, I'm the human dislike button, and I see it too. Easy there, Cujo. Taking part in a dog socialization program at a shelter or pet store can help nip this problem in the bud. And no matter how well socialized your pet is, cleaning up the little rays of sunshine they leave in their merry wake is your responsibility. To learn more about me, go to breck.org/HDB.
Down the home stretch of another Sports 225. Scott Rabalais here. So is John Williams from JCW. He's directing the show. You can go to sports225.com for the show listings and to see the archives of old Sports 225s. Every time a show airs and we're finished with it, we put it on the Sports 225 TV YouTube channel, which you can access there, and see when we're on Cox 4, which is now your view, and CST. And there you go. So the LSU football team stands 4-2. Midway, it's hard to imagine it's midway through the regular football season already. But the most bizarre 4-2, which always just goes back. I always say after the July SEC football meetings that no matter what they predicted, it never comes true. And whatever you think about a sports season, no matter who plays it, it never goes the way you think.
People love to predict things, bracketology and all that, and it never comes to pass. I mean, you could have picked LSU to be 4-2, but this 4-2, having gotten blown out by Miss State and lost to Troy, and then you win at Florida, no, that's not what you would have figured at all.
No, if you had bet that scenario, I guess you'd be well off and done well.
Speaking of betting, LSU went off as a favorite, which was shocking at Florida.
I know, but the line changed a lot from what I was gathering.
It swung off
again from social media.
The
social media. I don't know anything. Let's just briefly talk about the Auburn game, and the remaining time we have left. This is a big challenge for them and a pivotal game, because if somehow LSU wins, all of a sudden 5-2, even with the losses that they have, 5-2 looks really good.
Yeah, and you're going to Ole Miss next week, which is kind of a mess, and then you have the open date for Alabama, so they could go to Alabama still with a mathematical chance of controlling their destiny in the West. So yeah, it's a huge game for both teams. Auburn didn't have a loss in conference; they only lost to Clemson, who's still really good. They're playing really well. I mean, they're averaging almost 50 points a game. They're winning their SEC games by more than 3 touchdowns a game. They're playing well on defense. Kevin Steele was at LSU for a year. Now he's the defensive coordinator there. They've got just loads of NFL talent on both sides of the ball. It's a challenge. Auburn hasn't won in Tiger Stadium since 1999, though.
Was that the cigar game?
That was the cigar game.
Tommy Tuberville lit up a cigar at Tiger Stadium after the game. Well, conversely, you lose this game, and then all of a sudden you're 4-3 and maybe reeling and.
You're 4-3. You're playing for a bowl game. You're not realistically going to win at Alabama. But I think even if they lose this one and lose to Alabama, they could still go 8-4. You go 4-2 in the second half of the season.
I think after the Mississippi State loss, if you told any LSU fan you could go 8-4, they might go, ooh, I'll take that.
And it wound up in a decent bowl game. So it's not what you want. It's not what you shoot for at the beginning of the year. But you knew this team had limitations going in, and they've come to pass. And
all right, if you're just tuning in, make sure you watch the replays and see Scott's travelogue from England. Thank you, sir, for coming on.
Thanks, Governor. Thanks for having me.
Chip Hero and all that. Thanks for watching Sports 225. We'll see you next week. And they're going to a big fadeaway. Yeah. Perfect timing. Gone.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry.